make something a little bit more meaningful, because people, when they search, when you search, you're looking for information. You're looking for something to make a decision, for entertainment, what have you. And so we all, in some way, shape, or form, we have to start thinking about these pieces of content as social objects. This is Gaping Void, and he had said that social objects are the future of marketing and communications. And if you know who he has done his job very well, because his social object was art on a business card. And he used that as a way to get people talking. And those things are on Flickr, those things are on YouTube, and if you search certain keywords, chances are you will find one of his pieces of art. Now it's turned into a pretty successful business for him. So Tom Feremsky, if you follow him, he's a veteran journalist, Silicon Valley, out of the Financial Times, 25 years. And his new mantra is EC equals MC. Every company is a media company, meaning that you now have to start to produce engaging content and placing it in the places where individuals are searching for keywords that are related to your business. And those bits of content, they could be video, they could be blog posts, they could be white papers published on Scribd or DocStock, whatever it is, they have to be useful. They have to be helpful, and they have to be compelling, right? I don't know if you've ever created a video for YouTube. I don't know if you know this or not, but you have 3 seconds to determine whether or not someone's going to watch the rest of that video, let alone share it. It's 3 seconds. It used to be 5, by the way. Now it's down to 3. And that's because attention. And depending on whether you look at the glass half empty or half full, it's either thinning or it's focusing. But either way, it's not on you. And so in the legacy of really complicated PowerPoint graphics, what it shows is that the media landscape is changing, right? It used to be about paid media, right? Advertising, advertorials. It also used to be about earned, so communications, public relations. But now we see all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Words that can't even fit on the screen. We have participatory media, right? You have things like wikis. You have things where people are sort of creating user-generated content opportunities. You have owned media now for companies that are taking advantage of creating helpful content, how-to videos, what have you. And you have sponsored media, right? All of these people who are figuring out now that they have these valuable connections in social networks, and they're being paid to rep brands. They're being paid to say certain things, right? If you ever followed these stories about people who make money from promoted tweets or paying for companies to tweet on their behalf, some of these things go between $80 to thousands of dollars per tweet. I'm in the wrong business, but yes, it's happening right now. So it's a whole different category, and guess what? For the most part, it works. So what are you doing about this? And a lot of this is called social media optimization. You have to not only create content, but you have to make sure it's found, right? If you ever uploaded a video to YouTube, there's a reason why they want you to go through all these painstaking processes of titling and describing and tagging your content, because that's how people find it. And that is important because it works. It doesn't just work within the social network, but it starts to fall over into the traditional web, right? I did an experiment where I took a picture of a particular place that I was visiting, and I couldn't find it, so I went to Google, and I couldn't find it in Google. So when I finally got there, I took a picture of it, and I tagged it exactly how I searched for it. Within a couple of days, it had indexed in Google, and that picture was then the #1 result for that establishment. Yes, in some cases, it's that easy. What used to be keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple and short, has now evolved into something to sort of, I guess, connect with those attention spans, and that is keep it significant and shareable. So if you are creating content, make sure that it's not just relevant, but that it's worth sharing. And why do people share? Because they want a reaction, right? When you tweet, when you post a blog, when you upload a video, you want people to watch it, and you want people to respond, and you want people to react. So bake that in to the content that you're creating, and make sure that that content shows up in the networks where people are searching. And that, all of that information you can find. Now there's another part to this. This is why the book is 400 pages. Influence. It's a very popular subject these days. This is how I define it for the social web. It's the ability to inspire desirable and measurable outcomes or action. Pretty simple. So, word of mouth, it doesn't work. Tell everyone you know. So what does that mean? Well, that means that influence is becoming more prominent. And influence isn't what it used to be, right? You're not going out to your traditional intermediaries to spread the word. Everyday people are becoming experts in the subject matter. And over time, they are becoming more influential, and they're becoming more responsible for the word-of-mouth activity that takes place. What used to happen here in the real world is still happening here in the real world, but it's also happening online, especially since more of our time is focusing there. Ask yourself, what does that view count in YouTube mean to you? What does your friend count or your follower count mean to you? It doesn't mean what you think it means, unless it's driving action and outcomes, unless that's designed into the program. Because viral isn't viral until it's viral. So you can't go make a viral video. And why do you want it to go viral in the first place? What do you want it to do? What is it that you want the outcome to be? Think about that as you're creating this content. Because influencers aren't going to magically find it. Right? They don't just go to YouTube each morning and say, I wonder what the next hot video is. I am going to make this video super hot today. Let's go. What they do is the opposite. They actually wait for you or hope that you find out who they are and connect with them. And you connect with enough of them to help them sort of become helpful in spreading the word. I can give you a funny example. I worked with a pet food company, a pet food brand that created this series of viral videos. And they came to me and they said, hey, you know what? None of these videos went viral, and we're kind of in trouble because we spent a lot of money on them. And we thought they were hilarious. I said, well, what do you mean they didn't get like millions of views? What were you guys looking at success? I mean, how many views did you get? And they said, well, they've been up for a month and we've got 14 views. I said, okay. All right, and you're coming to me. Let's look at the videos. And they were funny. There's a guy in a bacon suit. Didn't really say much, but it was just sort of to introduce this funny notion of the fact that there was going to be a bacon treat soon to be launched by this brand. So I thought, well, you know what, let me have some fun with this. Let's just see if it's true that you can find influencers on any given subject. And let's see what happens when you connect with them on their ground, on their terms, and to make them part of the process. And so I went out, and lo and behold, there are thousands of people who like to talk about bacon on the web. And there are also millions of people who love dogs on the web. And when you put the two together and you find out very clever and funny ways to sort of connect the dots with these individuals, because it's pretty easy to find out how they're influential or who's influential. You can use services like Clout. You can use services like CitizenNet. You can use services like I don't know, I'll have to send you a whole bunch because I think I have a slide on it. MBlast. But once you can connect with these individuals, they can help you tell the story. And within hours, we had that up to 14,000 views. Now, of course, I said, what are we going to do with these? Because it doesn't say your company name at all in these videos. So I did my job, thank you very much. But let's think about this for the next time. How are we going to make something that's not only engaging and worth sharing, but that people remember who you are at the end of all of this and that they do something that's going to matter to your business? So it's your job to figure out who these individuals are, and it's your job to figure out how it is that you're going to connect with them. I did have a slide. Phew. And there's more and more services coming up around influencers. Some are limited just to Twitter. Some are looking at Facebook now that these privacy options are starting to erode. You also have influential bloggers and what have you. But these services over the next year are the new gold mine, right? What used to be sort of social media monitoring and listening is now going to be about influence in the next year. Because of this formula. See, this is how good at math I am. 1 + 1 = many. And it's not about the old way of connecting one to thousands, right? If you're in public relations, you know that by your wonderful email blasts. And if you're in advertising, you pick the right medium in order to reach the most amount of people who are in those demographics. But now it's about connecting with the right individuals around the right psychographics, remember the context, people who are connected with one another, in order to help spread the right story the right way and cause the right outcomes. To prove it, I worked with one company to go out and find who all of their influential voices were in the social web. And if you can't see it in the back, you see these clusters of colors, some representing Twitter, some representing Facebook, blogs, what have you. And also, I went a step further, and I just looked at whether or not they linked back to one another, whether they ever mentioned them, whether they talked about one another. And I was able to show that not only are these the influencers for this particular marketplace, but they're also highly connected to one another. So I ran this name by their individuals in marketing and also in their advertising to see, hey, are you guys talking to any of these folks? And none of these names were on their lists. Yet some of these names, actually most of these names, had greater reach than anything that they had been focusing on today. And by reach, I don't just mean how many people follow them or are connected to them, but what happens when one of these individuals say something, because you can measure that now. You can see what happens, how it reverberates across the social graph. So it's very real. So by talking to any one of these individuals and connecting with them with the right content, the right story, the right creative, your story goes pretty far, a lot farther than it does today. I want to share with you a little bit about this whole notion of real time, because I think the social web got really caught up, and we're still getting real caught up in the whole aspects of real-time search. If you look at customer service, it's almost like this, it's like move and react, move and react. Okay, somebody said this over here, go, 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 go. Okay, now over here. Twitter is not getting any smaller. Facebook is not getting any smaller. If it does, I'm out of a job. It's less about real time and it's more about right time. Right? It's also more about the right person, the right circumstances. You don't have to reply to everybody. You don't have to engage with everybody. You just have to find the right individuals in order to connect with them, because 1 + 1 = many. It's not scalable to react to everybody, and nor should you react. At some point, you're going to have to get in front of it, because that's your job. Your job is to become influential. Your job is to make your brand influential. Your job is to make the brand more influential than the influencers you're trying to reach. And it's all possible, because what works for them works for you. They became valuable members of their societies because they constantly introduced valuable information, because they were helpful, they were resourceful, they were useful. You can do that too. But what's happening now is that social media is becoming a lot of science as it is art, right? I can tell you when an attention aperture is open. I can tell you that when it's open, how to make someone stop what they're doing in their stream and consider clicking on what it is that you're introducing. And doing this enough over time helps you reach more individuals. And if you follow Dan Zarella, he's already shown us some of this stuff. These are the most successful times to be retweeted. Same as Facebook. So if you're a brand representative, you have to work on Saturdays. I'm sorry. But this is already measurable. This is already science. And now they're also showing that when you are tweeting, it raises your oxytocin levels. Meaning that it's an emotional experience, meaning that it, for those who don't know what that is, it's the chemical that sort of forms with the mother and child, or you with puppies, for example. But it also is this. That's me with a few airlines. It's also this. If you can't see it, it just says, Starbucks, I love you. This image on Flickr has 50,000 views. Free advertising. But it's because it makes emotional connections, right? It's about us. This is our ground. We define as individuals who we connect with and why, right? It's hallowed ground. And for a company or a brand or an organization to try to come into my world and connect with me, well, it better have a little bit of understanding as to who I am, what motivates me, why are they there. Intention speaks for everything. It's already been boiled down to several different types of personality traits on the social web. In fact, a lot of it's TMI, but that's because Twitter has become this sort of like voice to the inner monologue. But you can't see this, but at the outer ring of sort of engagement strategies these days, you start with the brand, you have your media, you have your technologies and your platforms, you have the various ways to sort of make sure that that is distributed across the board, and then the outer ring is all emotion. How do you connect that story to various emotional states? Because they are always dynamic on the social web. This has been done long before social media, by the way, experiential marketing, sensory marketing, but now we also have to become sort of like this is why I call it hybrid theory. We have to almost become social scientists at the same time. How do you make something emotionally connect with somebody? Chances are that they have, and this is called empathy, right? And it now has a role in the marketing department, because this is our space. And we don't want to just be connected to special offers, because that gets kind of old, right? Everybody's going to figure that out. If it was that easy, then anyone could do it. We have a greater purpose. We have a greater mission. This is our moment to actually earn relevance. I wrote about this recently for the Harvard Business Review because I was at the Twitter Chirp conference a few months back, and they started